Hi everybody. In this video, we're going to talk about two characteristics of the self-actualized or self-actualizing individual, depending if you want to see yourself as you're in the process, okay, then you're self-actualizing, right? Maybe that's the right way of looking at it. So we're going to address two new characteristics. In the upcoming video, we're going to address three. Now, the reason for that is because, number one, these characteristics have a lot to do with each other, number one. And number two, you're going to see how these new characteristics, they have a lot to do with previous characteristics that we already addressed. So here's the two characteristics for this video. Number seven, people who are self-actualizing, they feel greater freshness of appreciation and richness of emotional reaction. Hmm. And number eight, they also experience higher frequency of peak experiences. Okay. Now, Maslow says a lot about peak experiences in his book, Towards the Psychology of Being. And because this is a very, very important idea, right? And it gives us a very clear vision of what it's optimal living, optimal life, what it's the best life that you can live. What are you supposed to experience, to feel in this condition once you reach this condition, or you're approaching the condition of being self-actualized. Now, here's a very important quote from the book Towards the Psychology of Being, explaining peak experiences. According to Maslow, people during and after peak experiences characteristically feel lucky, fortunate, graced. A not uncommon reaction is to say to oneself, I don't deserve this. Think about, when was the last time you told yourself that? You felt so grateful, so blessed, that you were just overwhelmed by gratitude and you said to yourself, this is way too good for me. I don't deserve this. When was the last time? Well, you might be thinking, gee, I'm not very happy with my life. I'm going to the therapist precisely, right? Because I don't feel like life is being really, really great with me, right? I'm not getting any of that. Okay, well, we're going to see in this video whether you have something to do with that, okay? But I'm going to finish this quote, okay? I'm going to try. Maslow says peaks are not planned or brought about by design. They just happened. These things happen, these peak experiences. We are surprised by joy. These experiences are very frequent in the self-actualizing individual. They happen a lot. A common consequence is a feeling of gratitude. That's the key word here, gratitude. In religious persons, to their God, they feel grateful to their God. In others, to fate, to nature, to people, to the past. That might be very hard for some of you, right? Especially if you had a very, very difficult, perhaps a traumatic past. But you can feel grateful about those traumatic experiences. Trust me. And that's the kind of person you want to become. You want to be able to see the positive of those traumatic, very, very painful, difficult experiences. Continuing with the quote, a feeling of gratitude to their parents, to the world. Very often, this feeling of gratitude is expressed as or leads to an all embracing love for everybody, for humanity, and for everything. You're grateful for everything that happens to you, for the things you have, even for the things you don't have. I remember a friend of mine once said, I went to the mall this past weekend and I was so grateful looking at all the things in the stores, all those things that I don't need. So that was pretty cool. So you feel grateful about everything, about everybody, and peak experiences lead to a perception of the world as beautiful and good, often to an impulse to do something for the world. Like you feel indebted. You feel you must repay. Even you feel a sense of obligation. Because once again, right, you feel like so fortunate, so fortunate. You're like, gosh, I don't deserve this. This is way too good for me. I must do something to repay this good that I'm receiving, this goodness, all these blessings. And like I said, you might feel like, okay, well, it'll be great to experience something like that. Well, you can. You can. If you choose to. That's absolutely right. You choose to react to your circumstances, even your tragedies. This is a lesson I learned from Viktor Frankl. If you have not read this book, you absolutely should. A Man's Search for Meaning. And he says, Viktor Frankl says that you can lose everything in your life, everything, everything. They can take everything away from you except one thing. One thing, your freedom to choose how you react to a particular circumstance. Now, Frankl had a right to say this because he lived in a concentration camp for a long time and he lost literally everything, his family, everything, his possessions, his reputation, career, everything. And yet, rather than becoming resentful and rather than regretting his life, he decided to be grateful for it and to actually do good in a concentration camp, helping other inmates, fellow inmates, prisoners, and helping them, encouraging them, even giving them uh, his bread, his food. He would share it with other people, even though everybody was starving. So you choose. Do you remember in characteristic number 6, we talked about uh, being exhibiting people who are self-actualized, they exhibit increased autonomy. Remember that? And that we are our main determinant. Do you remember that expression? Meaning what? Meaning that nothing influences our lives more than ourselves. So we are in control of our lives. We really are in control of our destinies. Because if we have the power to choose how we react to our tragedies, to our circumstances, boy, then that's pretty much being in control of everything in our lives, everything that happens to us. Or not everything, but close to everything. But even those things that you don't plan, right? Even uh, difficult circumstances, struggles, trials, um, that obviously they're not welcomed, right? You can see them as opportunities to grow. And that's what you can do. You can choose in a very painful circumstance either to become resentful or find some valuable lesson out of it. Gosh, I can give you so many examples. Like I remember a lady that I met. She would go over the country talking to young people about the dangers of drinking and driving. This lady, she had a very, very terrible upbringing, and she would share her testimony with, once again, young people, high school students mostly, and she would tell them about how difficult it was growing up and how abused she was, neglected, and how she grew up like with a lot of resentment. And on top of that, she became an alcoholic as a consequence of this very difficult upbringing. And one day she got into a car accident and she lost her vision. Like she became blind. So on top of that, adding tragedy to tragedy. And this woman realized that he had a choice to make. Either become continuing in the resentment path, nihilistic path, and continuing drinking till she died, or do something positive about it. And she chose the latter. So she started going to schools, talking to young people about the dangers of drinking and driving. And I'm sure, I'm absolutely sure that this lady has saved lives speaking to young people. because her testimony was so compelling, was so moving, was so moving that you could see young people listening to her and feeling really, really conflicted and affected emotionally by her testimony. So, okay, you can do that. You can choose gratitude over resentment. You can turn your tragedy into a triumph. You experience something terrible. Okay, you can use that experience learned, right, and help other people who have gone through something similar, or help them avoid that path, right, that tragedy. You can absolutely do something like that. And but you see, one thing goes in hand with the other. Goes in hands with the other. When you choose gratitude, you're gonna begin to experience these peak experiences. You're gonna realize that you are you are more blessed, you're luckier than you think, and you're gonna start feeling appreciation for everything. And that's what number 7 is, right? Greater freshness of appreciation and richness of emotional reaction, because these peak experiences are gonna make you cry of gratitude. So, and they're going to make you a more sensitive person. That's good. People think that hiding our feelings is the right thing to do. That you don't want to, what's the word people say? You don't want to be vulnerable, right? You don't want to open up about, what's going through you, what sort of sensations and feeling you're experiencing. So why not? Why not? We're human beings, and people who are self-actualizing, they know this. This is a good thing. Hey, I feel emotional right now watching this movie, or talking to these people. In my case, teaching a lesson, I get emotional very, very frequently. And that's okay. So I own my feelings, and that's a good thing to do. You should do that too. So, okay, choose gratitude. If you feel like you have no reasons to be grateful for, gosh, then you should probably pay more attention to other people. Because if you're thinking that your problems are the biggest problems in the planet, pay attention to what other people are going through. Okay? Because there are so many other people suffering more than you are. And to go back to Viktor Frankl, he lived in a concentration camp for years. I tell people always, I encourage them to read this book, because when people, especially people who complain a lot about their lives, you should see what this man went through. Because being in a concentration camp, to me, is the closest to hell that you can experience in this planet. And he lived that. I don't think you have gone through something more painful than living in a concentration camp and seeing your family being killed and seeing yourself dying little by little, dying of starvation, among other things, and diseases. It was a terrible, gosh, it was a terrible thing, concentration camps. So maybe you want to be involved in other people's problems, and see how fortunate you are. Once you begin appreciating your life, the things you have, even the things you don't have, right? You're going to start feeling peak experiences. And these experiences, as they happen more frequently, are going to make you feel like we were just reading, like indebted. You're going to feel like you must repay all this goodness that you have been experiencing. And it's going to make you probably do something for people, which is characteristic number 4. Remember, problem centering is when you realize, okay, I'm not the center of the world. There are other things, other problems that are bigger than my problems, right? And you pursue a cause that is larger than life, like they say. And that's incredibly, incredibly rewarding. All these things, friends, being grateful, helping other people, all these things lead to growth, lead to mental health, lead to an optimal, beautiful existence. Who does not want that? So that's what it takes, friends. You might think, yeah, easier said than done. It's true. Sometimes it's not easy to be grateful, but you can try. Give it a shot. If you don't feel reasons to be grateful, again, pay attention to what other people are going through. People who have suffered a lot more than you have. And if you're thinking, well, so we're going to play this comparison game, well, sometimes it's useful, absolutely useful. Yes. And because when we're so caught up in ourselves, in our own problems, friends, you know what? You're going to continue suffering. Do you really want to stay in that condition? Do you really want to remain depressed and feeling miserable about yourself and maybe even considering suicide because life it's just terrible, everything sucks? Are you really happy with that condition? I'm sure you're not, especially if you're going to therapy. Well, here's an alternative. Be grateful. Help others. It's going to make you so much better, your life so much better. That's all I have to say for now. Thank you for watching. See you next time.